Oh, people who know me, they know I'm like hooked on my Ember mug. I will occasionally use a regular mug like this, usually for ginseng tea, because I don't want to get the powder in the Ember mug. But that's not why you're here. You don't care. What I'm here for today is basically to talk about wealth and money and just um, things that have worked well for me. I believe I'm supposed to say here that this is not financial advice. So this is not financial advice, but it works. No, never mind. It doesn't work. It's just for entertainment purposes. I don't know what the right disclaimer is, but I have been using a lot of this stuff since I was at a very low like nonprofit salary. It served me well now that I'm in like a higher paying corporate job. So it's helped on both ends of the spectrum. I think especially the tips on how to budget are probably more useful for people who are not currently thinking about how and where to put away money. Um, but I will go through a few things: how to budget, what you should put your money towards, and really it's not like specific things, but just like a framework that I have sort of found helpful, built over time. And then I'll just touch briefly on like increasing joy. I think with what you already have, um, which also kind of touches all three of these kind of touch on how you should use your money, but how you should allocate and use your money. Um, well, let's just dive in. So the first thing for me that really was a game changer. I mean, within the first month, changed. Like probably started saving me $100. Like a several $100. Sorry, I cannot speak. I haven't had any tea yet. That's why. But the first thing that helped was changing how I budget. So most people, when they budget, they forecast how much cash is going to come in, and then they think, okay, how do I want to spend that money? Do I want to put it here? Do I want to put it there? That kind of thing. The change that I made, and honestly, this was done because of a tool called You Need a Budget, YNAB. Um, Not a sponsored, it's just incredibly helpful. You can honestly do this manually too, but the other or like the general approach is you budget with what you already have. So you say, okay, here's all my accounts that are holding money. These are like assets. Here's all my debts, the amount on your credit cards and stuff. So this is the total amount of cash I have. How much of that is going towards rent? How much is going towards groceries? How much is going towards like fun stuff? So you go through and you allocate that money up front. And what I love about that is it puts hard constraints around the money that you have. And so when you overspend in one area, it forces you to reallocate from another area. And it just forces you to be very intentional and upfront about where you're going to spend your money, which also cuts down on impulse purchases a ton. So definitely recommend this, like budgeting with the money that you have over the projected amounts. Again, for me, it's saved hundreds, at this point probably thousands of dollars, because I've been doing it for like a decade plus probably. Yeah. In terms of how I actually budget, I always just start with living expenses. That one, I kind of overestimate how much I'll need, because certain things like utilities are variable, but like rent, utilities, um, groceries, not eating out at restaurants, but groceries, and then things like transportation. Subscriptions I actually keep in there because those are recurring expenses. They are supporting my sort of way of life. If I really needed to cut, like that's an area I could look, but that's where I start. Living expenses. Then I go into giving back. I'll talk more about this later, but I have specific monthly recurring donations that I give. It's not a variable amount. I always know exactly how much it'll be, so that gets allocated next. Then I go into saving and investing. That is sort of variable for me during different periods. I try to consistently invest a certain amount every month, but obviously as my income has changed, it's allowed me to invest more, right? And then on the saving front, there was definitely a lot more being saved initially when I was trying to build my cushion. Nowadays, I'm sort of saving for two things. It's like rainy day fund, if I get like laid off or if I just want to break between jobs, which I have that cushion, but I'm just slowly adding to it over time since I'm still working. Uh, Still haven't found my rich wife, but we'll get there. And then the other piece is like I have like work now. I'm working on a book, and I know that at some point I might want an editor to look at it. That's probably going to cost a grand or two, and so I'm just putting money into that, setting aside for now, and then when I need it, it'll be there. And then the last thing is discretionary. So this is like your fun spending. The way I do this is I give myself actually two different buckets. One is a travel bucket, and then the other is just general discretionary things, events, eating out, all that kind of stuff. So that helps me kind of like, I want to make sure I have enough while I'm here, but I want to make sure I'm putting some money aside that I'm not touching, that when I decide on my next trip, it's already like, funded basically. And so again, living expenses, giving back, saving and investing, and then discretionary spend, which I break into travel and other things. So if you have like a specific bucket, that you're saving for, or like that you want to separate out, I would highly recommend. This is one of those if you know things, but like I love karaoke, and that travel fund comes in clutch when I need to fly across the country to do karaoke. That was probably not my best purchase. Anyway, the next thing, this one's more for the like corporate girlies, the corporate boys, whatever. I don't know what the equivalent is. Avoid taxes before investing. Avoid taxes before your paycheck hits your bank account. Honestly, that's probably a better way to say it. So this is sort of counterintuitive. I don't think a lot of people think about this, but $1 saved is worth more than $1 earned. Because when you earn $1, you then have to remove taxes from it. So whatever your bracket is, you're getting some percentage of that dollar. Versus if you save $1, like that is $1 that you actually keep, right? So great. This is saying like save, like saving is worth more than earning more in a way. But getting back to the taxes point, you can cut some of the damage by taking advantage of your 401k, your HSA, your commuter benefits. So I just set up like automatic recurring deposits for each of these things. And so I don't even think about it, right? And now it's not like a paycheck never hits my bank account and I'm like, oh, I didn't make X amount this month because I could have like made more if I didn't deposit into those things. I honestly, like, I set them a long time ago. I set the 401k to max out for the year, HSA max contribution, commuter benefits. At one point I did like a calculation. I think it came out to like $40 a month or something goes in there. This is all pre-tax, and then the rest gets taxed. So whatever, it's just reducing the damage a bit. So if you have those opportunities, definitely take advantage of them. Yeah. Okay. In terms of what you should put your money towards, I think the number one thing, this is like absolutely, look, it's based on your personality, but for me, the most important thing is having a few months of rent and expenses set aside. So I literally have a separate bank account where that money sits. I don't even remember how much it is. I add a little bit to it every month. This was the savings bucket that I talked about earlier. But it's just the peace of mind that comes from that is like so invaluable. I've had people at work ask me, like some of the younger staff, like, are you nervous about layoffs, that kind of thing? And I was like, honestly, no, because it's basically forced vacation. If it gets to that point, oh no, like I have more time to do the things I love and see the people that I want to see, and how awful. But in all seriousness, like, it's just having that money set aside, I think, will give you the leverage to take time off from work when you need it, switch jobs, like whatever it is. Like, if some unexpected expense comes up, like you're good to go, you're set, you're saved. So definitely highly recommend that. The next thing is to invest in ETFs and to diversify. Okay, so a lot of people try to pick out specific stocks. And there's this thing called systematic risk, and I don't know what the other word is. I'm not an economist, but let's just call it specific risk. If you carry just Apple stock, that's a high level of risk because, first off, Android phones are better, but also the amount of risk with one company, like if Apple goes up, then your portfolio goes up. If Apple goes down, your portfolio goes down. So you're basically carrying a ton of specific risk. What you can do when you diversify is essentially reduce the amount of specific risk. Because let's say I have 15 different stocks. Now some of them go up, some of them go down, which reduces my overall return, maybe if assuming Apple would have gone up, but then it also reduces my amount of risk because now the fluctuations between the different stocks are balancing out. So, I mean, all you really need to take away from that is if you go with an ETF or a diversified fund, you are reducing your total amount of risk. And you're essentially now, instead of betting on a certain company doing well, you're betting on the market doing well, which is a good thing to like. The US market historically over time has gone up. If you're younger, you can take the risk again, especially if you have those few months of rent and such set aside. So basically invest in ETFs. And one more note on this, there was like some experiment. It's really well documented, so you could just Google it. But Warren Buffett basically had a bet against a hedge fund manager. And he said, I'm just going to put my money in ETFs, let it age. And I bet my account does better than your balance that's like managed by a hedge fund. And he actually won out on that bet. And I think it's a really strong message for non-institutional investors. So unless you work at a bank or something, put your money in ETFs and just like respect the fact that you don't have more info than the people whose job it is to literally track this stuff, make trades immediately. Like you're just not going to beat some of the bigger institutional players. So make sure you take a safer strategy in that way rather than being like, oh, I know this about this company, I think it's going to do really well. You can do some of that. I would put like 10 or 20% of your funds in there. I would not overinvest into specific stocks. And then diversification, another point with ETFs these days. Okay, so like for example, with my account, I keep it pretty diversified since I have multiple ETFs since I have a good amount of funds in there. But there are some that are like S&P 500. I'm more of a growth than a value investor. Not really relevant, but so I go for like S&P 500 growth. The other ones I have are like the tech ones. I think I have a little bit of the international markets ones. But the point that I want to make for you guys is if you choose to go into multiple ETFs, like actually click in and see what the composition is. Because a lot of those ETFs that you're like, oh, I'm diversifying because I have this and that, it's like 50% of the composition is the same companies. So you're not actually diversifying in that case. You're buying two different ETFs, but you're getting the same stocks inside them. So definitely click in, see where you're at, see what's in it, and then make your decision based on it. Okay, this one's huge. I've honestly never had an issue with this one, but I just see it with other people. Treat your credit card like a debit card. Do not overspend on your credit card. Interest rates are not good. I'm not going to yap too much about this because again, like I've just never had an issue with this, but it scares the crap out of me, man. I don't know. I personally am just like, could not overspend on the credit card. I think I've done it like once because I knew money was coming in. Like payday was in like three or 4 days. I had some like maybe a flight or something that I needed to purchase, but like it was like so long ago, and I don't think it's a good idea. So treat your credit card like a debit card, and I think it'll be good. Okay. The next two probably are going to be a little bit counterintuitive. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to say on the current topic. So saving a few months of rent and expenses, investing in ETFs, treating your credit card like a debit card. I think that's probably fine. Okay. The next thing, do not maximize your savings. This sounds like maybe a little bit crazy, but I remember when I was younger, I would budget money for fun. So I would go through, I'd do like, here's my living expenses, here's my giving back, here's my saving and investing, and then here's my fun expenses. And then I would take pride at the end of the month in the fact that I had not used my discretionary spend, my fun spend. And I remember at some point kind of having this realization of like, dude, if you're doing that, one of two things is happening. One, you're either over allocating to discretionary spend, which is bad because you should be putting that into investments or something like that. Or two, and this was probably more what was happening with me, I just wasn't how do I put this? Like, I wasn't taking advantage of what I had. I wasn't following the principles and the values that I had set for myself because I had set aside some money for fun. That to me was a way of saying to myself, like, I value this. I value new experiences. I value like going out and doing things, being with people, that kind of stuff. So save and invest as you need. Definitely buy as much Korean barbecue as you can. I feel like that should just be life goals for it. There's not a better thing you could spend your money on. I mean, there probably is, but personally, I would just say, again, none of this is financial advice. So, spend all your money on Korean barbecue. Fuck it, I don't care. Can I swear on this? I'm not even sure. Whatever. But yeah, save and invest as necessary. Spend the rest. Like when you allocate something for fun, spend it. Don't maximize your savings. Do that early on when you're like getting that few months of rent and expenses. But beyond that, like if you're allocating for fun, again, use it or reduce your allocation and put it elsewhere, because money that's sitting in a savings account or a checkings account just waiting to be spent is silly. It's silliness. Either spend it or don't, or like toss it into an investment. And then the next one, look, there's actually a lot of like science behind this, blah, blah, blah. Like I'm sure there's like studies out there. I'm not going to be that guy. I don't have a thing to quote for you or like a link to an article. You guys all know how to use Google. But I will say this, like from personal experience, this is proven to be true. Giving what you can definitely makes a difference in your happiness levels. And so I would say if your goal here is just to maximize money, obviously this is not a good tip. If it's to maximize wealth and the feeling of like having what you need, I would say one, it feels good, and two, guys, I can't even explain how many times in my life I have like given stuff away even when it felt uncomfortable, and it has like circled back within the same day, within a few days, and I've like gotten way more. So there's a little bit of a spiritual thing to it for sure. But I would say definitely give back what you can. And the way that I do it is basically picking a few nonprofits that have good expense ratios, meaning that the money is not going to administrative stuff. It's actually going into operations and delivering the impact that they're promising. So for me, it's all stuff around clean water and education, because those are two areas that matter to me. But whatever that looks like to you, I guess I can share one of the stories. Like I one of my goals for this year was actually I've always sponsored at least one kid, then it's changed to 3, and then I wanted to sponsor 10. And that is certainly a place where I was like, okay, this feels a little bit uncomfortable for me, especially if my financial situation changed. I don't know. It was like more substantial than what it was before, obviously. So I went one day, I just was like, screw it, dude. Like, work harder. If you need more money, just work harder. Or that's like awful. That's not how money works. But I was like, I'll be okay, basically. And so I went ahead and did it. And then I kid you not, like 2 days later, for some reason, like I was supposed to find out about my bonus like way earlier. I didn't. I find out like 2 days later, and it was like I got like a bump. I got a huge bump this year. So it covered all my donations, which was cool. I was like, okay, I'm set for this next year, just off of this. So I don't have to feel uncomfortable. And then in the future, I'll deal with it then. Okay. I think the other piece that I would say here, and now this is sort of like shifting to increasing joy with what you have. Going back to the budgeting point, probably, once you get to a certain point, I would say in terms of financial stability, like you have the foundation, you have the savings, you have all of that. And then you've taken some time to really think about what brings you joy and what matters to you. You can start to leave some areas in your budget uncapped. And that's like maybe a slippery road. Again, this has just worked for me. I don't worry about expenses when it comes to climbing. So if I ever want to buy new climbing shoes, I just go buy them. I'm not like, oh, this is my climbing budget for the month, or this is my discretionary budget. And by the way, that's like very self-regulating, because if you've ever had to break in new climbing shoes, like I would way rather climb with the shoes that I have. But if there's a comp that comes up, or like a competition that comes up, or just something that I want to do for fun, like a training, like a workshop, like I'm not going to worry about it. If there was like coaching that I want to take, lessons I want to take, I'm like, okay, let's just do it. Travel, while I'm traveling, I will take off the budget, because like flights, I'm always like in economy, like boarding group 9 or whatever. Um, the trauma. Uh, Airbnbs, I get decent ones now. Like I've done the hostel thing. I can't share a bathroom anymore. I'm sorry, but like I've done some of those types of things. But now I get a decent Airbnb, but I still go for the lower end. And then beyond that, it's like what's the word I'm looking for? While I'm on the trip, everything's uncapped, basically. Like if there's a food I want to try, an activity I want to do, my philosophy is like I'm not necessarily going to be back here anytime soon, so just go for it. But all that to say, like when you spend in that way, when you have certain buckets that are uncapped, I think as long as you're choosing the buckets intentionally around things that bring you a lot of joy and satisfaction, you'll be in a good spot. And it reduces impulse purchases, because like you're like, okay, I have this open bucket, I'm spending in this area, like that just brings you enough joy, I think, where you're just not like, you don't feel the need to go impulse purchase like random things. But that's that. And then this last one's kind of an odd one. It's like very much like a minimalist type thing, but just like reducing your belongings, clearing out books, clothes, other items that you haven't used in a while. I've had to clear out books naturally just because I've moved so many times, but clothes are definitely another one that I occasionally will have to do intentionally. I've just found that when you clear out stuff that you don't need anymore, I mean, one, you can try to sell some of it, especially if it's like electronics, that kind of thing, but it concentrates the amount of joy that you have. Like this is like Marie Kondo, this is like Greg, whatever his name is, like the minimalist guys. But truly, like I do feel it makes a difference. It makes you feel, again, going back to the idea of wealth over money, it makes you feel more wealthy when you're surrounded by things that you love, and not things that are essentially burdens, like things that you used to use, clothes that you used to like, books that you haven't read yet and you never will, like, because that's just me. Like I've fully accepted that buying books and reading books are two separate hobbies, um, but I don't think you will. It'll just bring you stress, not joy. If it's truly a book that you're like, I'm not going to read this, maybe it was like a gift or something like that. But yeah. So just to recap, because I feel like this has been 23 minutes apparently. Change the way you budget. Look at what you have right now rather than thinking about what's coming into the future. That will force you to be more intentional with your spending, and it puts constraints so that you're kind of locked in and you go, okay, if I'm spending more here, I have to take from somewhere else. What is that other place? When you budget, put down your living expenses, go on the higher end, because some things are variable, like utilities, transportation, maybe. Then go into giving back. I would say if you're still in that phase of saving a few months of rent, just go straight to savings. Don't even invest at that point, just go straight to savings. But once you have that bucket of a few months of rent and expenses, like 3 to 6 is what they say. I don't know who they is, but 3 to 6 months, probably 6 if you're contemplating like leaving your job. If you don't like your job, have 6 set aside, because then it just gives you the option to walk. And I promise you, the peace of mind from that is just so good. But okay, living expenses, giving back, saving and investing, and then discretionary. Avoid taxes before your paycheck hits your bank account. So like again, a dollar earned is worth less than a dollar saved. We want to minimize the damage around that. So the way you do that is by leveraging your 401k, leveraging your HSA, commuter benefits. 401k, one thing I will say, as you make more money, or as you have like a large volume set aside in your 401k, I think this is a better way to think. if you have a lot of money in your 401k, um, or if you have like a big purchase coming up, then consider whether it makes sense to maximize your 401k or to keep that somewhat liquid. Well, I've actually maximized the last few years, but like the years after grad school, I've maximized my 401k every year. But there were certainly like funds that I allocated out to, for example, a CD before I allocated to 401k, because I was like, okay, I don't know where my career is going right now, that type of thing. Save a few months of rent and expenses. We've talked about that. Invest in ETFs. Don't try to pick stocks. Don't try to time the market. Just every month, put in a little bit. Make sure your funds are diversified, that kind of thing. Treat your credit card like a debit card. Spend the money you have, not the money you're borrowing. Don't maximize your savings. Have a little fun. Don't be that guy. Come on. No, I mean, in all seriousness, like if you're saving a few months of rent and expenses, save as much as you can. Once you're done, once you have a little bit of investments and stuff, like just be open with using your money in other ways. Don't be that person that's hoarding, because then you're missing out on joy and happiness and Korean barbecue. Don't miss out on Korean barbecue. Give what you can. It feels good, which is like utility in and of itself. The other thing I'll share here is like, I remember at some point I went from like not making a lot of money to making more money, and I felt really guilty about it. I had a lot of like, it just felt like a lot of privilege, which I do for sure. And what I've found has helped me get over that was just realizing like I now can use my level of privilege to give that back to, I mean, like I said, I'm sponsoring 10 kids, everyone I work with, like just give back as much as you can. I think like if you're in a position where you can give back, yes, it probably took hard work, it took skill, but it also took a lot of luck, and you can be that luck for someone else, right? So definitely give back. And then, like I said, you guys, I told you the bonus story. I've got like crazy weird stories about like how money has come back. Again, maybe just more spiritual belief, but I do think the more you give, the more you get. Okay. And then increasing joy with what you have. One, uncap the areas that truly bring you joy. Like, it is worth spending on the things that bring you joy. I mean, ultimately, money should be about freedom. It should be about access. And so, that's worked well for me, I guess. I'll just end that there. And then in terms of your belongings, like try to concentrate and keep the ones that bring you joy, that bring you utility. It's just having that concentration versus having many, many belongings, some of which are more burdens or stressful or bring a feeling of guilt. I think it's a good exercise to do periodically. Okay. I think that's pretty much all I have. Like I said, just get as much Korean barbecue as you can. But if you want to do that, the first thing you got to do is up your bag, get your bag, up your wealth. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't had much tea today. Okay. Ciao.